Right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our weekly discussion. And this week, I have the pleasure to introduce a very special guest, and that would be Casey, even though he is not a stranger to our weekly discussion, because Casey has been in many of our weekly discussion, and we have had many wonderful uh, discussion in this format. But today is the first day that we finally got Casey to join us as a special guest, and this is something that I has been wanting to do for a while, right? Beside the discussion, I think it's a great idea to get to know about each other, and then we can dive in deeper in each of the topic of the happiness studies. And this time we are going along with the June cohort of the Certificate in Happiness Studies program. So just a quick introduction of Casey. And so Casey has been studying with Dr. Tao Ben Shah for a little over 10 years. And Casey has lived in Portland, Oregon for a very long time. And I has been living in Portland, Oregon since 2017. So when I first saw Casey many months ago in one of Tao webinar, I was like, I need to somehow reach out and connect to Casey. And not until a few weeks ago that we finally connected, and it has been wonderful getting to know, learn, and go on this wonderful journey with Casey. And I was very uh, admired of Casey' recent journey of traveling across Central America, and how he are able to contribute value to different community, and throughout his very valuable experience in his spiritual journey. Casey has many transformational uh, guide and lifestyle mentor, and he has accomplished many uh, in motivational writing, as well as public speaking and workshop facilitating. So today I would like to introduce you to Casey. We will learn a little bit more uh, about him, and then we will start the discussion in the week 12, and that will be the first week that we get to learn about the very first intellectual principle, I-1. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Casey. Welcome to our discussion, Casey. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ben, and thanks everyone for taking the time to come out on and learn more about Tull's Spire principles. Ben, I first and foremost, I just want to say thank you and Jasmine. You two are so inspirational. The fact that you both took the master's program at the same time, well, you got a baby on the way, Bella Luna, and all the songs, and just to watch how quickly you guys move, I was quickly enamored with you two, and that's why I wanted to attend. I just wanted to watch you guys build your brand while I'm out doing my thing. And for the sake of the audience and those of you who don't know me, it's so exciting to have international guest on the call too. That's always fun. But so here he goes. I basically am I think that this was a perfect co-hosting, guest hosting opportunity for me with Ben, because I'm actually living intellectual principle number one with my curiosity and my openness to new experiences. So unfortunately, and this plays into tonight's conversation, but it's like when things didn't go the way that we expected, and my wife and I have 30 years actually parted ways, and we did it with loving kindness, and it's which is no easy task, but I was very grateful that we both started our next journeys, remembering that we're friends and we've loved each other, and we have two amazing children, and that sort of thing. So, but as Tal says, the best may not always happen, but we can always choose to make the best of what does happen. And this was a time for that. And so one of my superpowers is reinvention. And I had to really take the time. And when we get into the reflection later, I can comment. But basically, it took thankfully now in retrospect, I had a year. We knew we had agreed that we were parting ways, and we had a year together to practice our loving kindness and to plan our next steps. And I decided to sell everything that I own and start a global nomadic journey, kind of a vision quest. It's spiritual. It's in search of me and community, so to speak. And I like to say a co-creation of community and connections and celebration. And I love cultural immersion. And I just happened to start in Central America, but I can't wait. Hopefully I'll meet some people on this call in Southeast Asia, but I'm going to Southeast Asia. I'm going to India, where I will continue my yoga studies there. I'm going to Europe, I'm just going to circumvent the planet with kind of this tentative goal, because I've gone out. I've learned to let it go and let it flow, and not try to control things that I can't. Getting over my need to be right. And if you had told me I'd go on a trip like this and not have the next 18 months planned, I'd say you're crazy. But I learned to adopt this beginner's mindset, which comes up in today's topic as well, and learn to from my Tao studies. I did a deep dive into Eastern philosophies, and so Wu Wei from Taoism is this non-striving, but being fully engaged with detachment from outcome, and it's a new trick for me, because I've never been that way. So yes, over 60, you could still learn new tricks. So neuroplasticity, neurogenesis, and epigenetics are all real. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. That's good enough for now. I'm ironically going back to the States. We have a happy reunion coming up. My son asked me to partner with him in his business, and I'm going to help them launch that in Florida. And my daughter came out from her Hollywood life to help lend her decor design aesthetic to the development of this concept. And Gail, my ex-wife, lives there. So my daughter's staying with her. It's a beautiful thing. And we're all going to be together for at least 7 weeks. And then I come back to Mexico City for the HSA retreat and start a whole new venture. I'm going back to my retreat in Costa Rica at Pachamama. So anyway, that's enough about now. And I'm open to questions also later. But go ahead, Ben, take it back and guide us forward.
All right, thank you for your introduction, Casey, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We appreciate you. I see a lot of familiar faces and name, and this discussion is for all of us. So if you have a question for Casey, or if you have any question related to the material on week 12, the first intellectual principle, feel free to send it in our chat, or you can raise your hand and you can interact with us directly. We would love to hear from you as well. But before we go over the material on week 12, I do want to get to know Casey a little bit better. And Casey's life story is fascinating to me. And as many of you have already know, I was born and raised in Vietnam, and I came over here when I was 16 years old. And when I got here, and when I get involved with my Vietnamese community over here in the U.S. as well as Vietnam, we uh, we often talk about the American dream, like go to America, get a good education, build successful business, build a happy family. And to many, many of us, we thought that that is the dream and it is a wonderful life. And then later on in my life, after I went through many phases of starting and closing business, namely in the restaurant business, and then having certain success in life, I realized that life is more than just making money and building success around a career and happiness study, as well as many, many other personal development journey helped build me to where I am today. But the thing is, we learn and we apply, but not too many of us have the gut to make a decision to actually walk the walk, and walk the talk too. And for me, even though I just know of Casey in the past couple of weeks, it was such an inspirational story. As Casey mentioned quickly earlier to everyone, that he sold everything he owned, and he decided to go on a journey, and he had his plan to travel the world, to connect with people, and to have his journey, right? And I think that is very, very inspirational. And I also learned that Casey has been studying with Tao for about 10 years, even prior to the happiness study program. So I guess the first question that I would like to ask you, Casey, is how did you get to know about Tao? And after that 10 year, since the beginning until your recent travel and your nomad life, what happened in that 10 year? How has your life changed? And what make you decided to start your journey? And feel free to share
Mm.
the lesson that you have learned along the way, even though is not even a full year, but from what I heard so far, you have had so many experience, you have met so many friends, and how that changed your life completely, even though prior to the nomad life, you had already found success in life as many people see it. So please
Mm.
please share with us.
All right, Ben, thank you for the question. Wow, it's so multi-layered. It's anything but a linear path. It was not like this. It was like this. And so I would say how I found Tal was I had found out about Marty Seligman at UPenn, his MAPS program, and I really wanted to go to that. But between the time commitment and the cost, my two children, our two children, were about ready to go to college, and I just said I couldn't justify it in my mind. But the community there and the connections there were some very famous people getting attracted to the MAPS program, and so which was the Master's in Applied Positive Psychology for anyone who is not familiar. And Marty Seligman is one of the founders of positive psychology. But through that, through a side door, I find out about this former Harvard professor, and it's just kind of like the beauty of the internet. And I started reading about Tal, reading about his business at the time was called the Whole, just like Whole Being in HSA, it was called the Whole Being Institute, and he had partnered with Megan McDonough and Maria Serra, two amazingly very brilliant women, and they still run it. But Tal had to come and do this thing and create the first master's program in the world, the first internationally accredited master's program in the world in happiness studies, and it was his destiny. And you could see it. And if anyone had the chance to catch the webinar earlier this week with Arthur Brooks, to hear someone with Arthur Brooks' Brooks's resume, 13, best-selling books, et cetera, et cetera. And he's now at Harvard in a very prestigious tenured professorship. And to hear him pay tribute to Tal just warmed my heart. And because Tal is my teacher, 10 years my junior, but he is my teacher. And anyway, so I often say, and I'll kind of cut to the chase here, because I know we got a lot of ground to cover, but I often joke, I've even joked with Tal in Vancouver recently at the IPA, the International Positive Psychology Association Assembly, whatever it's called, about 2 summers ago or last summer, whatever it was. And I got to joke with him and I said, Tal, I'm not your best academic student, but I'm your most embodied student. So I spent most of my adult life making bad food choices, giving up exercise so I could work 65, 70 hours a week. And even though I most often worked for myself, I was a solopreneur, serial solopreneur, restaurants, real estate, et cetera. It's just, I just let my body go. And so when I came into Tal's SPIRE model, so his spiritual, physical, intellectual, relational, emotional, I focused on the pyre, irony, thinking I'll eventually get to the spiritual. But pyre, ironically, means fire. And I wasn't figuring it out. I was getting healthier. I was learning new things, 3 internationally accredited ICF certifications in positive psychology coaching, and the happiness studies program. But it's like at the time, my personal life was a dumpster fire. And I was having this great success with an international company. Ironically, it was based in Israel, where Tal is from. And it was a wonderful experience, 7 years, and it helped us get the kids through college. But ultimately, I remember my mother telling me I needed to go into individual sports instead of team sports. And yet I became a basketball player and baseball player. I should have done individual sports. So I'm better off being my own boss, being the master of my own destiny. And that's what I realized. And it's funny how fate works, because of course, as I'm planning my departure from the States, I get a couple of interesting job offers, and they were very tempting. And it was that, thank goodness I had read, Alan Watts wrote a book called The Wisdom of Insecurity. And really it's a spiritual book, but you can apply it to our economic lifestyle in America as well. And often what we think is security, it's an illusion. And I just came to this realization and acceptance that there was a reason why I almost succeeded, but didn't quite. I mean, I never truly failed at anything. I learned a lot, great experiences, diverse experiences. And yet is all I felt it was the universe telling me, my higher self telling me, you're not where you're supposed to be. And I'm supposed to, and through that, and through my deep dive into Eastern philosophies, I ended up saying, okay, I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to service of others, and which is what I'm going to do. But keep in mind Tal's wonderful teaching about being selfful. You got to grab the oxygen mask and take care of yourself first. You have to write your own ship. And that's what I've done over the last couple of years. And I didn't expect to be launching my 2 platforms this soon, but I will launch them in early November. And so just to give you a brief blurb on those, so I got into, I say my tagline is, meet me at the intersection of ancient wisdom and progressive science. And I love the fact that there's these new sciences, Tal created happiness science studies. And then there's another new field, which is part of me reclaiming my own personal health. And it's called the peak performance aging. And so I did a little twist on the words, and I don't really like the word coach. So with my positive psychology coaching, I'm going to be a peak potential transformation guide. And I'll teach that on a 3R level, which is a combination of my recovery from societal conditioning, reinvention. You know, how do you line up your spirit, your strengths, values, and passion to define what you're calling? And then ultimately that lets you claim redemption. You get to rewrite your own legacy. And then my other fun is going to be had with the travel blog that's going to be called adventurerich.com. And it's basically, Tal asked me, he said, so, you know, is this sustainable? What are you doing? I said, I don't need to live a rich life. I said, I don't need to get rich, Tal. I want to live a rich life. And I'm trading in material accumulation for experiential accumulation. And that's where I'm at, guys. So
Wow, wonderful. And that is very, very powerful. And you know what? I believe that you can do both, because as you travel, as you meet new friends and build new connection, as in happiness study, we learn how everything is interconnected. And I do believe, and I have seen people who achieve both, you know, and this is something that I have great admire for happiness study, because we encourage taking care of others and taking care of ourselves, right? It is okay to experience the physical world as well as working on your spiritual well-being plus more. So I'm very much in support of that, and I love how you saying that we are go on this journey together, and how we helping guide each other rather than coaching. And I often hear this from Tao as well. He often said that he is also a student of happiness studies, and how we are all the journey. We are in this together, and we are walking this journey together. And with that, I thank you so much. I thank everyone so much for joining us today. And again, this is a Saturday discussion. So of course, we still have our material for week 12, the first intellectual principle. But again, feel free to ask your question to get to know Casey better, to get to know the material better. And this is an open discussion. And once again, I would like to thank you so much, Casey, for accepting our invitation to be a special guest. That way we can kickstart the discussion, and everyone can join us. And with that, let's start with the first intellectual principle. I1 states that curiosity and openness help us make the most of what life has to offer. And this is very, very powerful. I would like to introduce a few concepts that we get to learn in week 12. And then we will share with each other what we think about a couple of the key concepts here, right? I think it's best to have an open discussion. We are not here to teach, but what I really wish to have is a platform where we can very open about our perspective. We share with each other, and we can learn from each other, and we can explore this journey. So let's get to 12.1. And again, once again, just a quick reminder, even though I am following the format of the 4-part lectures from Tao, but we don't have to go through all of 4 part. There are other material in reading and external content, as many of you have known, in the MA program as well as in the certificate program, where we have the GEM Plus, and GEM Plus. So feel free to share that in our discussion. Anyway, 12.1 titled reflection, which is the combination from reflect and action, which means that we reflect back to the information, to the experience that we have, to the lesson, and then we also need to take action in order to materialize the lesson learned. And in 12.1, there are two key points, or there are two key words that I would like to focus on, and those are curiosity and openness. And this is a great focus for the intellectual principle, because when we have our curiosity and when we have the openness to the experience, we've learned that it is very essential for the experience in our life, how we can cultivate intellectual well-being. And you know how, like, when we was much younger, we are very curious and we are very open to the world, and we had all of these dreams, and we are very open to experience. But as we get older, I feel like we started to narrow down on the possibility. So to me, curiosity and openness is the key to our cultivation of intellectual well-being and reflection. Reflect on our experience, on the information that we have learned, and take action to cultivate and to materialize the understanding can greatly help us cultivate again our intellectual well-being. Yes, Casey.
Ben, thanks for yielding the floor, so to speak. You know, what this speaks to so much is Tall's personal journey. The fact that he left being the professor at Harvard, like most people say, how do you leave Harvard? You know, you made it to the top. But he said the life of an academic, while it solves the curiosity part, you're learning, you're constantly learning, but you're not necessarily out doing an experience. You don't get that exploration of the openness to new experiences. And that's why he wanted to go out and create his own path, so to speak, that was outside the bureaucracy and being put in the box of professorship. I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
All right, wonderful. Thank you, Casey. And I just want to go over the information real quick, and then we will circle back to the discussion, because I do want to have a discussion on a couple of very important points with Casey and everyone when it's come to intellectual well-being, because I found this great interconnectedness between spiritual well-being and intellectual well-being. And from that, curiosity and openness kind of like the key to open the door to that experience. So in 12.1, Tao dive in deep in the information about curiosity, and how curiosity can help us explore the possibility. And speaking of that, there is a very famous saying that I learned when I first came over here to the US, and that is fake it until you make it. So what does this mean exactly, right? Uh, you know, when I was younger, when I was in college, people would often say, "Yeah, you gotta fake it until you make it." And what they mean is that we are acting as if we have already accomplish what we want to accomplish. And by living that reality, at least in our mind first, the information will come, the experience will come, the opportunity will come, and the entire universe will conspire to help us get to where we want it to be. And in the beginning, I thought that very silly, like why would I fake something? Why can't I just be myself? And then I read this book about how to become a millionaire, something along that line, or the millionaire habit. And in there, the author wrote something very interesting. He said that in order to make $1 million, you have to be a millionaire first. And I thought he uh he make a mistake or something, because the definition of a millionaire, at least to me at that time, was having $1 million. So I was like, what are you talking about? You have to have the $1 million before you can be a millionaire. What do you mean by in order to make $1 million, you have to be a millionaire first? So later on in that book, what he was saying is that we have to live as if we are a millionaire, and by doing that, we will be able to create value. We will be able to make that $1 million. And then the author went over the detail of how successful people usually wake up before 5 a.m. They have their ritual, they would have their exercise time, breathing exercise time, yoga, and then they get a lot done early in the morning. So by noon, they have done a lot more than what other people could have, and the way they carry themselves, how they build a network with other, and that helped them become who they want to be. So I find a great connection between what Tao mentioned in 12.2 about curiosity and the idea of fake it until you make it. And to me, okay, this is just my perspective. To me, it's it's not about it's not fake it. It is a reality, even though that reality is in your mind. So just like the author said, in order to make $1 million, you have to be a millionaire first. So in actuality, you don't have $1 million, but in your mind, in the immaterial world, right, the intangible world, that is already the reality. So words create words, and whatever you have in your mind will eventually materialize in the material world. So to me, intellectual well-being is the cultivation of the mind, the intangible world. And I think it is beyond what common understanding. And I see Anthony Ray or his hand. Feel free to unmute yourself, Anthony. Thank you for
Sure.
joining us.
Thank you. Well, I like the idea of curiosity, and I think what occurred to me is I'm just speaking for myself. I often have like very visceral kind of like emotional reactions to things. So sometimes I feel like I'm curious, but sometimes I just don't want to. I just don't. I think the reactions are like some unconscious way to protect me from what I think might happen that I experienced in the past. So how do you blend people's traumas or back experiences that were scary or unsafe with showing curiosity? Because I want to be curious. I think there's value in it, but I also think that um, it's scary. There's things that I don't want to experience again. So I don't know if I made sense, but that's just something that occurred to me.
I think it makes a lot of sense. And to me, curiosity is the communication of the subconscious mind, right? Because everyone had different interests. So we have our curiosity because it is important to us. And I think it is very important to listen to our inner self, to really explore that curiosity. And there was a famous saying that all roads lead to Rome. And the background is that, back in the day, everybody do big trade with Rome. So all of the road, all of the the big I guess highway back then, all of it lead to Rome. So my belief is that there is something great, and let's call that something is happiness, and curiosity is kind of like a sign, at least like from my personal experience. When I feed my curiosity, when I go after my curiosity, often one thing lead to another. And we also learned this in the second whole being principle, I believe, stating that everything is interconnected. So curiosity is like the subconscious mind, your inner self, giving yourself signal to go on a journey so that we can get to where we desire most, I would even say. And to put it simple, that is happiness and more. So I don't know if Casey would like to comment on this.
Yes, please. Hello, Anthony. Here's what I think of right now when you ask that, and I'm not sure. I don't have the best internet connection. I might have misheard part of the first of what you asked. However, here's what I'm thinking of right now. And there's a teaching that the past is the wake of the boat, and you have to focus on the bow and the future. Tal himself says, we should not ruminate on the past. We need to we need to learn from it and let it illuminate our future. And you know, again, I am not a trained psychologist, and this is a question for a trained psychologist. I'm a positive psychology coach, but I had a recent, just a beautiful experience. And I will tell you that part of my own spiritual growth has led me into the woo circles, so to speak. And I spent 3 months, and I'm going back to Pachamama, which is an eco-spiritual wellness community retreat in Costa Rica. And I'm going back this winter. And I had the biggest expansion of consciousness, and it allowed me to let a lot of things go. But as part of my journeys that I've gone through, I ended up in Mazunte in Oaxaca on the Pacific coast. And I had a person who was there doing a karma yoga intensive at the Hridaya Yoga Center there. And she had asked me to come visit. And she said, you have to meet this woman, Iris. And so Iris does this cranial sacral, what it is a birth. It's going back to the womb and experience. And there's, you know, there's no other medications involved. It's just really a therapeutic modality. And I will tell you that my own personal experience was life shifting. I learned to understand the pain that my mother was going through, having a fourth child with an alcoholic husband. And it was a somatic, you know, mind body experience. And it just released. I mean, I was convulsing in my stomach and crying in 60 seconds. And I don't mind sharing that because I've done a lot of healing myself. And I used to laugh at it and say, well, oh my gosh, so many people had it worse than I did, you know, growing up. But there's trauma for all of us. And the idea is to use trauma. And this brings up post-traumatic growth. So what we know about post-traumatic growth is the people that fall into the perpetual state of post-traumatic stress ends up only being 17% of the people that are affected by it. And out of that whole group of people that come out of some traumatic situation, whether it's whether it's war, whether it's famine, whether it's political, whether it's the loss of a limb, loss of a loved one, deep, difficult life situations. But 64% of the people come out of it stronger. So the old adage that our grandmothers, our mothers, and whomever told us that which didn't kill us makes us stronger, that's what Tal tries to teach us. And it's how do you leverage that and reframe it so that it's your strength and no longer your weakness or something that's holding you back. I hope that helps.
Yeah. By the way, I was just in Manchute briefly myself last month. So I wish I would have known. I would have checked it out
Ah,
next time. Thank you. Thank you very much.
you're
Wonderful.
welcome.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Casey. And I also see Jillian raise her hand. I will invite Jillian. Oh, she just lower her hand. Jillian, if you would like to share, feel free to unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry for coming late, Casey. I missed your first part, so I will listen to the recording because yeah, there is so much information that I would like to understand and I would like more understanding about the positive positive how do I say positive something coach, right?
Psychology.
Positive psychology coach.
And hi, Chilin.
Hi, Casey. And when I hear the curiosity that Ben shared and the openness, what you just mentioned, that's about the curiosity is like serve as a connection or like the communication channel for the to the subconscious. And I in that in when you mentioned that, it just made me like connected to the previous working experience that I have. I've been working with a SI company, that's a system integration company, that the main customer are the banks. So it just made me think like uh, the curiosity is similar to like those switching centers. Like there is a there are different different banks, different branch of banks, and they need a center, so it can connect to different places. And like if my account is in um, a branch, but I using the ATM in the other place, like in San Francisco, but I'm going to get my money. So they need a switching center to find that information going to the right place. So what you are mentioned about curiosity just um, bring me to like think those are the connections. Like curiosity can connect everything, a lot of things, either to the parts that we are feeling difficulties, and also to the parts that we can feel joy and happiness. And sometimes could be like twisting with both, like I'm feeling sorrow but also feeling happy. For example, I have a good friend who is who is a, a little bit older than me. Is like 2 to 3 years old, but he is already passed lately because of the cancer. So in part of me, I feel I still missing him, miss the person, but at the same time, I also feel that I'm happy for him because he doesn't need to have more suffer in the process of the illness. Yeah. So what you mentioned about the curiosity just bring me to think about that switching center concept. So that's great. And for the curiosity, I also had a, a sort of difficulty, and well, I'm still like trying to manage it. Is how, and I would like you, if you all of you have any good ideas, how would you manage if the curiosity, there are too many curiosities? How are you gonna hold it? Because we only have certain time limited resources, and what's the balance, how you manage that? Yeah, that's my question. Thank you.
Yes, Casey, feel free to respond.
I'm definitely, Chilin, and I've enjoyed our connections on a couple other different calls as well. I'm going to start with your last question. Having too many ideas, the story of my life. I was joking with Ben earlier about having this Walter Mitty mind. But in the woo circles of the healing communities, And for anyone who doesn't know who Gabor Mate is, Gabor Mate is a brilliant physical doctor and psychologist. And you can find a lot of his stuff online on YouTube, a lot of interviews on podcasts. But his two areas of expertise are addiction and ADHD, which are two things that affected my life. And so in a sense, I say I'm a poster child for Gabor Mate, but what I am is a huge fan. And but in the woo circles, we jokingly say ADHD is a altered detention, what is it? Attention to a higher dimension. And and so it's, to me, having so many ideas is something I've had to deal with. But what I realize is it's a blessing and a curse. I'm interested and fascinated in everything. I literally had an amazing download last night, which gets us back to the manifestation and priming the subconscious. And I typed into the chat about Neville Goddard's teachings of assuming the wish fulfilled. Well, I can tell you that what I came out of with this morning, and Ben, I alluded this to you in one of our texts, was that, holy smokes, I'm launching both my sites on my 64th birthday this November 1st. And boy, I've got a long way to go. But then I started saying, okay, and I'm going to write these ebooks. They're all going to be less than 100 pages. But I went from 3 ebooks to, I kid you not, 16 ebooks as far as topics and general idea for an outline. Now, I'm a 40-year incubation project. You know, this stuff has all been working inside of me, and then fast forwarded over the last 10 years, and my deep dive with Eastern philosophies and happiness studies have informed them all to get to a point where I'm ready to just be very prolific in my 60s. So to get to that point, or to answer your question of how do you deal with most of these ideas, the first thing I think of is the old adage, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And you really do have to teach yourself focus. And I have a morning ritual myself. I do a blessing with my water. And part of it is that two of the words that I use that I whisper into my water are discipline and focus, out of about a series of 12, because I couldn't cut it down to 3. Anyway, I hope that informs you a little bit, Sheelin, and if it doesn't, let me know what I missed.
Yeah, yes, thank you so much.
I just thought of the connections, Sheelin, when you said to your friend, your friend and your relationship are still living. It transcends the physical realm of this 3-dimensional plane that we're in. When I talk about self-actualization, it's vertical. It's source, my higher self, and me co-creating, and then it's horizontal, and it's the co-creation with the people in the communities and connections that I'm making. But it's 4th dimensional, which is, for me, my 4th dimension is what everything in this universe is manifested from, and that is eternal, unconditional, non-judgmental love. And when we replace all our negative thoughts with that, Arthur Brooks said something to this effect on the on his talk the other day, and it's amazing because I'm going into a whole field, and I've been working on this for years about self-actualization and finding your true self in the second half of life. And he's already written a book about it, but is all he did is, in my mind, my old self would say, oh, it's already been done. And instead I say, oh my gosh, this brilliant man opened the door for me and others to serve other people, our clients, and other people starving to learn to create their own path. And by the way, I'll just say this too, the HSAX talk that I hope to be giving here in Mexico City, I've called the Passion Path to Present Purpose. And basically that in a nutshell describes my, and I'm writing a book on that and blah, blah, but that describes my journey. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Casey. Yeah, I heard you mention about if there's too many curiosity, probably I can, your sharing is one at a time. and then also cultivate the focus training. And just an echo to you, as I do love Gabriel Mate and also took his CA course. Yeah.
Ah, nice. Yes, yes. Thank you. You're on the right path, Gio, and you're asking questions, and that's that's the key to everything. So just the fact that you have your curiosity, and now you're diving in with the exploration, and you're tapping brains and minds when you interact with them. It's beautiful. I'm glad I got to meet you.
Me too. I'm glad to be here. So I always say thank you, thanks to Ben and Jasmine, because they keep on, no matter how many people did it before, but because there's people like keep on, so I can still able to be here and listen, and then to be inspired. So thank you very much for everybody.
Yes, thank you, Chile, and thank you,
Thank you.
Casey. And I feel like we definitely need to invite Casey back in because there are so many area and there are so many things that we can learn from and about Casey. So I just want to throw this out there so that I will message Casey after the call today, and we'll figure it out. But I feel like we have such a strong chemistry, and then you have so much to offer. And I thank you so much for joining us in our weekly discussion, not just today with as a special guest, but many other week that we have our discussion, and you always contribute your great ideas. So thank you, Casey, and thank you everyone for joining us today and join us in the future, because this is a journey and we are better together. And with that, I want to ask Casey a question related to curiosity. And I think this is very important for us to explore. And if you can still see my share screen on 12.2, and I would like to stay here for the remaining of this discussion. And that is on the beginner's mind. I think this is very powerful. This is a lesson that I have come to a realization sometime this year, and I think it's very important that we explore this. I didn't I didn't realize how powerful it is when I first learned about it in the MA program. But now that I circle back to it, I think there is something very special that we gotta discuss today. So the beginner mind, right? When we adopting a beginner mind characterized by curiosity and openness, and I'm going to repeat this one more time, characterized by both curiosity and openness, is allow us to see the world with fresh eyes and embrace new possibility. And this mindset lead to a greater happiness, health, and creativity. So Casey, what do you think about the beginner mind, and how can we apply, and what are the benefits?
It speaks to my love of Eastern philosophy to begin with. And if you, like a lot of psychologists will say, it's and the Stoics, I believe, are the ones who said, show me the child up to 7 and I'll show you the adult. So these all kind of are interwoven together. And but look at a 2 and a 3 and a 4-year-old and how they are so disinterested in the confined boxes of adult life. They have their imaginations just flowing. And I have felt, I didn't realize how much it was bothering me, but as I was a dutiful husband and father, focusing on making the money to provide a certain lifestyle, I let a lot of my creativity fall to the side. Now, even though I was creating my own businesses and things like that, but now through writing and exploration and deep cultural immersions, oh my God, I'm like a kid in a candy store. And it's just, it's that the beautiful feeling of letting it go and letting it flow allows for the beginner's mind to take in that space. And when you no longer say, I've got to be here by this time, I need to do these 10 things today, I need to, no. You know, it's like my list of 18 to 25 things that I walked around with for my whole adult life, and then was disappointed at the end of the day because I only got 7 checked off, but move forward dutifully these ones and this and that, the other thing. But really it's the mindful moments. It's so the tagline, by the way, of my speech and my book is, so it's a passion path to present purpose, but it's borrowing from Wayne Dyer. 2012, he did this amazing series, and it was called From Ambition to Meaning. And I've kind of added 2 adjectives, and I say from ambivalent or ambiguous ambition to mindful meaning. And this is mindful meaning is allowing, again, the flourishing of creativity. When we're not trying to control everything, it allows the beautiful energy of the universe to flow through us. And in that is nothing but creation. And so that is what the beginner's mind is about. And it's everything is anew. And I'm all of a sudden think of Einstein. Of course, there's 2 ways to go through life. You know, either everything is not a miracle, or everything is a miracle, which speaks to Tal's teachings about taking the ordinary into the extraordinary. When you take the time to be in the eternal now, whether we're hearkening on Ram Dass or Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now and many other great thinkers, it's what it's all about. John Kabat-Zinn's mindfulness practices. It's being mindful means you're not distracted by the coulda, woulda, shouldas, and what am I doing tomorrow? I shouldn't have done that yesterday. And you're able to enjoy the moment. You're able to sit and stare at a flower and marvel at it. You're able to sit and marvel at, how did this tree grow for 150 years? And that attachment with nature, which is harkens Ralph Waldo Emerson and Walt Whitman and many others. But hopefully that's a decent answer on beginner's mind. The beginner's mind is part of my morning ritual to say, enjoy this day and whatever it may bring. So in other words, instead of me trying to direct the actions of the day, I'm accepting everything with an open heart and an open mind.
Thank you, Casey. And you know, when I heard of your story of how you have a successful business, you know, you have a happy family, and at the age of 64, you know, you don't even look 64. If you don't tell us that, we probably don't know. You know, when I first met you, like, oh, this guy probably in his 40, 50 at most, because of your energy and how open you are. And I think the beginner mind and the 2 key points of curiosity and openness, this is a formula to expand our understanding and cultivate our intellectual well-being. And the first intellectual principle tell us that, you know, it said that curiosity and openness help us make the most of what life has to offer. Now, that's a very, very powerful statement, right? With only 2, with just curiosity and openness, that can get you the best or the most out of your life. So extremely powerful. So to me, the first is curiosity first. That is like the sign. And then openness, open to new ideas, open to new possibility. And you are the living example of that, right? Give it up everything that you have known in your 60 plus year of life and venture to something that even a youngster like me scared of, you know, travel the world, you know, it can be dangerous out there. What if I run into things that I'm not familiar with? And this week, I heard of an expression that really caught my attention, and it's a very short quote, and I would like to share it with everyone. It was it there was a discussion, and I was like overheard it, and the guy give an expression of the low hanging fruit. And all of a sudden, the second I heard only three words, okay, low hanging fruit, there are so much idea come to my mind, and all of a sudden I have like this enlightenment moment where everything makes sense, right? And I was like, oh, that is right. In our life, we are so focused on the low hanging fruit, and we forget that there is an entire tree. There are even more delicious fruit, as in like the success that we can get, in this entire tree, because we so content with what we already have, with the easy path, that we didn't give ourselves the opportunity to grow as a person, to experience even greater experience. And what if there is not just one tree? What if there is the entire forest or an entire mountain of even more delicious fruit or tree that we can experience? But we are so fixate on the success that we currently have, and we don't want to get out of our comfort zone, and that kind of like we kind of lock ourselves within our own box, right? So the beginning of mine, where we focus on curiosity and openness and the idea of low hanging fruit, somehow all of that come together for me this week. And Casey, like, what do you think about that? Like your experience, I feel like you have so much to share when it's come to the wilderness, to explore, to try new things, having the beginner mindset so you can see things beyond what you used to see before. Right.
I think another fun thing for me, Ben, and everyone else is that, like, I don't come here with the typical American mindset. I'm a manager and a guy who used to own a couple of businesses, and it's like my normal thing is to come in and show everybody how they can do things better. And instead, I'm an observer, and I'm a passive observer. And yet, if I get invited into something, or if I see an opportunity, and I had a totally new experience when I found out about the Oaxaca Learning Center, and they serve a specific student population, which is, quite frankly, sadly, the majority of students are underprivileged here, and they serve the 14 to 22-year-old, and they make sure they stay back in school, and they get them money and grants and get them into college. And I had the opportunity to create a workshop for them, and it was a wonderful experience, and it was fun, and I was at play sharing knowledge, and I think I hadn't mentioned that earlier, but that's a big part of it, because we stop playing as adults, and play is so important in life. And that's why, I don't know, maybe my ex would agree that that's why I never grew up, because I refused to stop playing and having fun. And I chastised my former CEO. I said, we went from distant number 2 to catching number 1 to dominating our industry, and we don't know how to have fun and enjoy the ride. And yes, we're serious about our job, but we need to celebrate the small victories, and that's why celebration is in my Connections, Community, and Celebrations little tagline. But really, it's assuming that I don't have to be in control, that I don't have to tell people how they can make their lives better, that I'm just observing and learning from these deep cultural immersions, and finding out what I can learn to bring in a different perspective that helps me to grow. Hopefully that helped you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Casey. And I love what you said about enjoying the little thing in life. It's not just about success. We can be serious when it comes to work, but there are other possibility as well And that's something that I have learned when it's come to success, like career or in monetary, because I know that is important for life, but there are other things that we can experience as well. So by allowing ourselves to enjoy a little thing in life that connect us to a bigger thing, to greater thing, like what you are experiencing right now in your journey, helping, teaching, doing workshop and write books and having program that you are doing now, which are very, very different compared to what you have done in the past from what I know of, like restaurant, because I used to own a restaurant myself and help operate and open and closing many restaurant with my friends. And it is something that I value and treasure in the past, but my life today is very different from what it was 10 years ago as well, because I am more open to my curiosity, and one thing lead to another. My life is richer in experience, and I think curiosity and openness is extremely important. And I overlooked this when I first took the MA, but just these two elements, I feel like it can help us accomplish so many things in life, right? Having new experience, accomplish a new success. And when I look at successful people like Bill Gates, Amazon, Jeff Bezos from Amazon, and even Elon Musk, I think that's all that they do. They have this curiosity and they have this openness to new things. The story that I read about Bill Gates is that all of the expert, all of the professor at that time, they thought that it was impossible to have computer in every single household. But Bill Gates was open to that, and he created an empire of Microsoft. He know that it was possible, and he explored that. Same thing for Amazon, online bookstore, online store. It was never heard of, but he had his curiosity and he was open to it and look at his success compared to, let's say, modern novel and other retail store. And I think the same story apply to Elon Musk, to his venture in Tesla electric car and space exploration, and many other. And I believe that all of this great thinker or explorer, they have this beginner mind and they can see things that others just cannot see. And they simply applying curiosity and openness. And I think this is so powerful. As I mentioned earlier, we got so distracted with all of this low hanging fruit. We hold on tight to our small success compared to other, but there is an entire world out there that we can explore through curiosity and openness. And I'm so glad that Casey accepted our invitation to join us today on this specific topic, because I admire you so much to pretty much give up a lot of things that was important in your life to give yourself an opportunity to travel, to see the world, and to connect with the people that you needed to connect. And that happened very recent. And I see you raise your hand, Anthony, but let me invite Casey to respond to this real quick. Yes.
Well, I'll just say quickly, I was going to say, does Anthony have another question? Because then he should come in. But Cheelan, you put something about the comfort zones. Ironically, and I can't, and what I will say is that Yuval and I were speaking. Yuval is the president of Happiness Studies. He's Tal's business partner. And Yuval and I were having a conversation in Vancouver, BC, and when he found out about my journey, he said, "Well, and we have an ongoing dialogue. Somehow, I'm going to be contributing in a recurring article called "Step Outside Your Comfort Zone" with KC." I just thought I'd share that. And Anthony, please bring in a question.
Yes, please, Anthony.
I realize I think I may have answered my own question, but so I'm getting to know
Awesome.
someone, for example, that lives in Mexico, and I find that sometimes he already kind of knows everything, and sometimes I struggle being around people that aren't curious. It kind of bugs me. Then I realize that I'm not curious about their lack of curiosity at the same time. Like, I'm just curious how other people deal with people that aren't as curious about the world. Because my perspective is that they must need a lot of security, and that's why they're not willing to be more curious. They need that much security, or they need to know something is a certain way, even if it hurts them. That's why they need that much security. But I was curious how other people deal with people that are a little more rigid and not so curious about things.
I could write a book about this. I used to be that person who was so focused on not listening, but telling people about my great ideas, and I wanted them to think that I was special. I wasn't just this restaurateur guy, and it affected a lot of my relationships. I'd love to think that through Tal's teachings, I've learned to become, and particularly my positive psychology coaching teaching, the appreciative inquiry, also known as compassionate inquiry, that we learn to grow our skills as compassionate, as empathic listeners. And but now, what I'm going to say is hard for some people to hear, but it keeps coming up again and again. And it came up. We have a mentorship, kind of a mastermind group of about 8 of us that talk together once a month, and all HSA people, and we share ideas and our own personal challenges and opportunities. And it came up, this challenge with this one person about a relationship with somebody that he's had for a long time. And it's exactly that topic, Anthony, that you introduced. And it's how do I get this person to at least listen a little bit to some of these great teachings I've learned through HSA, and that I want to share with him. And I said to this person, I said, well, here's a painful part of going on this path and finding your path. And it's part of the Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. It's like sometimes you have to leave people behind. And when they won't continue to grow, but they're stuck in an area, and they're stuck even if they're growing in their own knowledge, but they don't want to learn about somebody else's, means they're only interested, they're stuck in their egoism. And that's the challenge. I mean, one of the greatest gifts that I was given was learning how to sublimate my ego, and learn about how many amazing minds and wonderful other souls there are out there that I can learn from. And that's what I'm hearing. That's why I posted in the chat earlier. It's like, I'm nobody's guru. We're all each other's teachers, and we're all students of each other. And that's the second somebody tells you they're their guru, I say, nah, thanks, but no thanks. Because I think that's too egocentric.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad it's more universal than just my experience. Thank you.
Well, remember what Tal says. It's that which is most personal is also universal.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, like all of this discussion remind me of the story in the book, the Alchemist. I don't know if everyone here have read the story, but that is one of my and Jasmine favorite book. And just to connect that with the lesson that we learned today regarding the first intellectual principle, how curiosity and openness help us make the most out of life has to offer, and how important curiosity is, and openness. It had to go hands in hand. So the story was about the shepherd. He's been a chef all his life. He tend to ship. And one day he had this vision, this dream, this vision about a treasure. And he was very curious about that. So he followed the vision, and the entire adventure started. He has learned so much. He had experienced so much in that journey, to both pain and joy, and he became a very, very mature person toward the end of the story. And you know what? The treasure that he saw, it was right underneath of his feet in the beginning of the journey. But he has to have that curiosity and openness. And the important thing is to take action. And Tao often mentioned this in week 12, right? You have your curiosity, you have your openness, but the important thing, you have to take action. So to me, the treasure in that story is not the treasure was buried underneath his feet, but the treasure was his openness to take action, to go on that adventure. And that is the real treasure, his experience, his maturity through that experience. So again, to me, it's just an enlightening moment to emphasize on the importance of both curiosity and openness. And it is exactly as the first intellectual principle stated: curiosity and openness help us make the most of what life has to offer. So powerful, not a better life, right? But the most of what life has to offer. How powerful that is. And Casey, please, I see you raise your hand.
Well, I didn't mean to interrupt you. You don't have to. I raised my hand to wait until it's time, but The Alchemist, ironically, I read that in a year. I reread because I had read it 30, 40, whatever years ago. And I reread it as part of when I decided I was going to go travel. It was just one of those, I knew it was something I wanted to reread. And so even though a lot of what I'm writing about right now is in a nonfiction form, I'm a full believer in what one person, I can't remember her name, she created a whole community about multi-potentialites. I don't like being put in a box, but I also started writing these spiritual awakening adventure stories, and semi-autobiographical. It's part of my experience and it's part embellishment, but it's all about discovering yourself and the world in this process, similar to The Alchemist. So I like to think of it as a midlife version. So he was a young man when he took off on his journey, and I was not a young man when I took off on my journey. So,
Right. Thank you, Casey. And I can talk about this with you and getting to know everyone better. Like Anthony, thanks for joining us. I think this is the first time that I get to talk to you, and I hope that we can get to discuss more in the future. And Casey, there's so much that we need to talk about and more. So I feel like well, we will have plenty of opportunity to discuss this. And for this discussion, I would like to keep it under 90 minutes. That way everyone can plan their days and join us. And this is such an important platform that we can learn from each other. But before we go today, though, I have this one song that was literally inspired by Casey. This happened very recently to those who has been following the conversation.
wow.
So me and Jasmine has been making this song about happiness study using AI, and of course I had to spend hours on like sound engineering because I do have some experience with that. And I remember when Jasmine first posted on the international group, and Casey was so supportive. I remember he said something about, there's a tear running down your eyes, and when you heard of the song, and that really inspired us to create more. And I think we are growing over time as we exploring this possibility. And I think it is so powerful that we can translate these material that we learn in happiness study to music, so that we can enjoy the music and we can get good value information and lesson from the song as well. So I would like to dedicate the next, I guess, 5 to 6 minutes to Casey with this song, and maybe we discuss it a little bit before we go. And the song is titled Intellectual Well-Being. So let me go ahead and share screen, and everyone enjoy this. And we will spend a couple of minutes here to discuss this with Casey as well. All right, here it is.
In the quiet of the morning light, books open wide, minds take flight. Through every word, every page we find, the world unfolds in endless rhyme. Thoughts like rivers flowing free, carving past to who we'll be. In the depth of questions bold lies the wisdom stories told. Feed your mind, let it grow. Embrace the wisdom, let it flow. In the dance of thoughts we find our way. Nurture the light, don't let it fade away. Questions rise like the morning sun. In every answer, the journey's just begun. Our mind unchained, forever free. Chasing dreams endlessly. Thoughts like rivers flock, each thought a flame. In the quest for truth, we're all the same. Through the maze of time we roam, every lesson brings us home. Feed your mind, let it grow. Embrace the wisdom, let it flow. In the dance of thoughts we find our way. Nurture the light, don't let it fade away. From the depths of doubt to heights of belief, knowledge brings solace, it brings relief. In the search we find our ground. In every loss a truth is found. Minds horizon wide and vast, exploring futures, honoring the past. In every lesson a path revealed. In every choice our fate is sealed. Feed your mind, let it grow. Embrace the wisdom, let it flow. In the dance of thoughts we find our way. Nurture the light, don't let it fade away. So let your mind soar, let your spirit climb. In the endless search we transcend time. For in every thought and in every rhyme, we write the story of humankind.
All right. So what do you think, Casey?
Oh my gosh. I heard that for the first time this afternoon, and I sent you that message. I don't know if you had a chance to see it, but I just said, oh my God, we could have a whole call just talking about what the lyrics to this song bring to mind for me and all of my teachings, whether it's tall Eastern philosophies and whatnot. But looking for truth, nurturing the light, unchaining your minds. I mean, all these things, forever free, chasing dreams endlessly. It's like, wow, everything. By the way, every time I play the song, see, I have my little djembe drum and my little cacao pod seed rattle that I travel with. But the minds are rising wide and fast. That water analogy from Taoism, and but carving. There was carving in there, and I thought, because part of my morning ritual is I use these three words that I say, thank you, Source, for blessing me with surrender, strength, and what's my third S? I'm forgetting right now. But surrender is being humble and taking the lowest point, like water in Taoism, but the strength to carve the rocks. And that's there in the song. But looking for truth and just being on that journey, but it doesn't end. Ultimately, it makes me think of what a dear friend of mine and I, we have read a lot of the same books. And he said, when are we going to stop being seekers and start being beers? And I was like, ooh, the 3,000-year-old question. but it's like, and to me, and then I realized I thought of Tall's self-reinforcing loop to spiral upward. And I said, well, we'll always be seekers because we're lifelong learners, but we do stop and you get to a point where you can see things, you can see them before you're happening. And my analogy from Buddhism is you get out ahead of the suffering, and you could see what life is bringing you and unfolding, and then you can just comfortably be in it. But then you're going to start seeking again, and it's just an upward spiral of beauty. So I love the song. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Casey, and thank you everyone who is joining us today. And we will definitely have more of this rich discussion. And it's so wonderful to hear from everyone today. And in MA, in the Master of Happiness Study, in happiness studies, we have a course called, I forgot what it called, to be very honest, but it is about teaching using movie or using art. And Casey, when you said that we can have an entire discussion on this song, and this is exactly what my intention is. I'm still working on this, and I think eventually we will make it even better. And imagine if we can just have like a class, a discussion on the song where we can explore so many possibilities, so many topics as Casey just quickly somehow brought it out. And we definitely need like many days to go over all of that great topic that Casey mentioned. But we have reached the end of the time that we have for today. And once again, thank you so much, Casey, for accepting our invitation. To be very honest, I was very nervous. I'd never done this before, and I was like, what should I talk about? How should I introduce Casey? There are so many things that I want to touch, but somehow it is flow wonderfully. And we have all of you to thank, right? Because we can't have this with just the two of us. So I can't just do this by myself and just mumbling the entire time. So thank you so much for being here, for being a fellow journeyer. And I am so blessed to have the opportunity to walk this happiness journey with everyone. So with that, please take care of yourself. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next week. And big thanks to Casey, our special guest today. All right.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks everybody for being here. It was a joy and an honor. Thanks.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you,
Bye.
Ben. Thank you, Casey.